Hi, in this video I'm going to add compression and decompression of data to our project. So I'm going to be using the server project from the previous video, the one that I added the retry to it. And for the client, I'm just going to create a new project, and let's delete the scene first. And this is an empty project. Then I am going to import the part 34 package. This is the last version of the changes on the client project. And let's import it. Here it is. And I've already imported the input system into my project. Let's go to the scenes and open the start scene. And I'm going to go to the build settings. And I'm going to add this scene to the list. Now let's go and open the game scene. I'm gonna do the same for the game scene, add it to the list. And by the way, before I imported the client project, I switched to Android. So let's close this. When I built for Android, I noticed a small problem in the camera controller. So let's go ahead and fix that first. And first, let's go to the adjust bounds. Here it is, and I am just going to change this line over here, and instead of H I'm going to use underline zoom. So that's one small problem down. Let's go up here, and we need to create 3 variables. Let's start by a vector 3. Just gonna copy that one. Going to name this move root position. And now I'm going to create 2 vector 2s. So let's change the 3 to 2. This is going to be move base direction. And this one is going to be move base position. And let's go to the move started and assign those values whenever we are setting the moving to true. So right over here, first I am going to assign the move root position. Then I'm going to get the move base position from the input. Then I'm going to calculate the down left point of the screen in the world position. The same thing for the top right point. And I'm going to use them to calculate move base direction. Now, let's go to the zoom started. Now right over here I am also going to say moving equals to false. And I'm going to add one more line over here, and I'm going to say move root position equals to root dot position. So that's for a start of move and zoom. Let's go to the update function, and here in the zooming part, and here I'm going to remove that plus sign, and I'm going to say move root position plus the rest of the line. And let's go and check out the moving part. So instead of this, I am just gonna say delta read the pointer position minus move base position, and I'm gonna remove all of that. And instead of it, I'm gonna say root position equals to move root position minus new vector 3, and the x of that vector 3 is going to be delta x multiplied by move base direction dot x. The y is going to be 0, and the z equals to delta dot y multiplied by move base direction y multiplied by 2. That is going to take care of our camera problem. Now in the description I have put a source code of the entire project. I've also provided a link to download this folder if you want to just apply the changes to your own source code. This is the battle script that I've made a few changes, made it a little better. So I am just going to copy all the content and, like always, paste it on the server and client. So that's it for the battle on the server, and this is for the battle on the client. Here we go, and that's it. And if we go back, we'll also find a functions script. Let's open that up. Here we go. There's a bunch of functions in it and a bunch of request IDs. So let me first copy this function. Let's actually cut them and bring it into, let's say, data. I'm just gonna paste it over here. That's it for our server data and for the client data as well. So we have a bunch of errors. We can just fix them by saying using system IO compression in up here, and the same thing for the data on the server side. Let's say using system IO.compression. And the unit IDs, spell IDs and building IDs, you don't have to copy and paste these values if you have changed the global ID of your buildings and units, but I have added a bunch of new unit ID and building IDs to my database. So in order to not get an error, I'm just gonna copy and paste them as well. Let's see where it is. This is the unit ID and the spell ID. Just gonna replace them. The same thing for the client data. Let's find them first. Here they are, and I'm gonna replace them. And also the buildings IDs. So that's the buildings. Let me just close the functions, and here in the data I am going to find the buildings, and here they are. Let's just paste it over there. The same thing for the client side. Here they are. That's it. So I'm just gonna do one example on how you can use that. So let's go and find the database, and I think in the authenticate player we are first calling the authenticate player async, then we are going to get an auth data, which is of type initialization data. This is actually a big amount of data inside this auth data. This is a string, and this is actually a lot heavy. So it would be wise to compress it before sending it. So instead of sending this whole string, let me comment that. Instead of doing that, we're gonna compress it and send the compressed version of this string to our client. So when we compress something, it will return a byte array for us. It's gonna be a byte array, and let's just name it bytes. And I'm gonna say await data.compress async, and I'm gonna pass this auth data. So let's say auth data, and that's gonna compress it for us. So instead of the string that we sent before, now we're gonna just send the byte array, which is a lot lighter than that string. And let's just copy this actually. I need 2 of those. Let's paste it once and paste it twice. So the first one is going to be bytes.length, and the second one is just going to be bytes. So the reason we also sending the length of the bytes, because on the client side we're going to need the length to read from the packet. Okay, so because of that, we also send the length as an integer to help us read the bytes on the client side. I'm going to show you how you can do that. First, let's just save this, and as you can see, it is going to be sending it by auth request. So let's go to the player, and let's go to the receive packet. Here it is, and this is auth. So normally it's gonna say a string auth data read a string, but we're not sending in a string anymore. So instead, let's just comment that, and instead of that, we're gonna say int. This is going to be bytes length, and it's gonna be packet read integer. And if you remember, we send the integer first. Now we're just gonna say bytes, and it's gonna be a byte array. it's gonna be packet dot read bytes. So as you can see, this read bytes takes in length, so we can just pass bytes length and it is going to get us the bytes. Now we need to turn this bytes to a string. So to do that, let's just remove this empty spaces here and uncomment this. To do this, I'm just gonna say data dot decompress, and I'm just gonna say bytes. We're gonna pass the bytes, it's gonna turn it back into a string, and we're gonna continue our operation. This way, data is going to be transferred a lot faster. So you can use this to compress and decompress other packages. You can look into them and use it in your advantage. Now, one more thing left to say. Let's go to the server, and here in the main data and methods, if we take a look at the update, you'll see that for the collecting, we added a date time called collect time, which ensures that this update collectibles will be called at least every 5 seconds. But for the other updates, for the general update, war update, and general update war, we did not add that, which means there is no time space for calling this function, which means it's calling it very aggressively without any delay or space. So I don't think that's a good idea. I think we should add a time delay for these functions as well. So for example, for this one, we can just say if delta time is greater or equal than 0.1, and let's say of type double, I'm gonna add a D to it, and in that case we're just gonna say updating is true, and let's also cut them inside this if statement. So this is going to be a lot better now. So let's go ahead and do it for war update as well. Let's just copy that, paste it here, and let's name it war check update time. So I'm gonna just say, let's copy these 2 lines, bring it here for the war check, cut them here, and let's go and say war check update, bring it here. It's gonna be now minus war check update, and here war check update equals to date time now. And we should do it for the war update as well. Let's just create a date time for it, and let's say war update time, and I am just gonna copy that, bring it here, cut them inside, and this is going to be war update, and let's also copy that, paste it here, and this is going to be war update time. I think 0.1 is a good number, maybe 0.05 also would be better, but still it's better than calling it aggressively and rapidly. Now let's start the server and check out to see if this works. Okay, let's go and play the client as well. Let's go to the start scene and start the game. So I'm going to put the screen size to 1920 and 1080 landscape. So it's gonna be a new game. Let's say John, let's send it, and here we go. Our game works just fine, and hopefully the camera is working better. And of course, one more thing, I noticed a few crashes in my server which I haven't been able to find any cause for it, but I think the best way that you could handle those crashes is to use try catch. I've been trying to do that with this retry. I've catched a few errors with it, but still there are some crashes that are an enigma to me. So let's collapse a bunch of these, and let's open this up. And here in the authenticate, I'm gonna add a condition, and if auth is not equals to null, then we're gonna do all of this. Also, let's go to this authenticate player async. Here it is. We are calling this, and I am going to remove this condition which is saying is online. So that might cause a few problems. I'm just gonna remove it. And as I said, it's wise to put your code always in the try catch to avoid encountering any crash on your server. For example, let's do it right here. Let's say try, and I'm just gonna say try and catch, and let's just cut everything inside this try. So this way it will try to execute that code. If it fails, it's going to call this catch area, and we can just say console write line, and we can just say message of the error. We can also do something in the server. Let's find a function that might need a try catch. Yep, this unconnected TCP might be a problem. Let's do a try catch here. Okay, this is a try catch. I'm gonna say EX for the error, cut everything inside the try, and say console write line ex.message. So you get the idea how you can do that. Now let's go to the client script and let's take a look at the check data function. Well, check data is being called from here, which is already in a try catch, but there's something in the check data that we need to put in the try catch, and it is the code inside this threading area. So let's do that as well. I'm gonna say try catch, and let me clear that out. Cut this and paste it here. We also could say exception ex and write line ex.message. And we should do the same thing for our check data in the UDP class as well. Here it is, check data, and inside this threading execute on main thread, I'm gonna say try, and I'm gonna hit the tab key twice, and it will write the rest of the code for the try for me. Let's clear that out, cut this, and this way we will make sure that server will not crash if we encounter any errors. Instead, we're gonna write it and handle it later, but the server still keeps going. And there's also one problem that I found in the program, and this is this line here in the main thread. This line is gonna cause an error sometimes. So to fix any possible errors, I'm just gonna say math.clamp, and I'm gonna open parentheses and close parentheses here. So I'm gonna put that inside the clamp, and I'm gonna cast this as an integer, and I'm also going to put this in another parenthesis, and I'm gonna say dot total millisecond, and the next parameter will be 0, and the other one is going to be int 32 dot max value. So that's another problem down, and let's get down here and let's create a function and name it global unhandled exception handler. It will take two parameters. The first one is an object, which I named it sender, and the second parameter is unhandled exception event args, which let's just name it E. And inside this, I'm going to define an exception and then assign the value of E to this exception, and I'm gonna cast it as exception. Now we can simply just use console.writeLine to print that exception message. And now we can assign this event here in our main, which I'm going to do here. And let's say app domain dot current domain dot unhandled exception plus equals to global unhandled exception handler, which is this function that we just created, and that's it. If your server encounters any errors that you haven't handled, this method is going to be called, and you can just say console read key to make sure it doesn't close the window and you can see the last error that caused your server to crash. So I guess that's it for this video. I'm gonna put the source code of the entire project in the description of this video. So have fun and thanks for watching.